What is up, crew? Welcome to another episode of Seek the Edge podcast with me, Kelsey Lensman, where our mission is to challenge you outside of your comfort zone so you can see the God-given potential inside. And I'm really excited because we have Andy Hills with an S, I will add, which he is a Navy SEAL veteran of 14 years, which is crazy. Cadre for GoRuck, and now is a consultant with Focus 3, which I'm going to get into a little bit later, Andy, my connection point with Focus 3, because it's really special in my heart.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to have you part of this. Thanks for coming on.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
This is really exciting. I've heard a lot about it, so here we are.
Now you're in here. So I met your wife at a coffee shop that I always work at.
How long ago was that?
3 years ago. And she brought your dog in.
Nora.
Yes. The best dog ever.
Belgian Malinois.
And that dog could be deadly.
Yes. Yeah, she's a little meat missile.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And so I initially heard of you through, Ashley is her name. Mm-hmm. And then I get really curious about people's stories, where they came from, where they're at, where they're headed. And when she said that you were and are a Navy SEAL, I was like, man, what was that life like? Which is crazy. And I told you before this, I don't want this to be a cliche. Oh, you're a Navy SEAL. Let's dig into all those things that way because I want to respect your privacy and the privacy of the community. But I also imagine you learned a lot serving the country and learned a lot of leadership principles and mindset principles that I do want to extract from you because it would be doing a disservice to you and everybody listening to this if I didn't. So 14 years.
Yes.
What would you say are the two biggest lessons you learned that you apply today with your time as a Navy SEAL?
Two of them, huh?
I could say five.
I think the first one that comes to mind is I think individually, as us individually, mm-hmm. we can be we're good by ourselves. Mm-hmm. Our true strength comes into play as a team when we operate mm-hmm. as a team mm-hmm. together. And then that's a perspective that it's a we over me mindset, mm-hmm. team first mindset, and I feel like that's a perspective that I've taken into marriage, into business, work, life, is by myself, doing things by myself. I can only do so much. I'm limited. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can have the most talented individual on the face of the planet, and they will every single time be surpassed by a group of a great team of average performers.
Oh, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about that.
I mean, we see it all the time. You see these all-star teams of mm-hmm. great individuals. And I mean, this is fresh in my mind because I recently came off of a trip with women's hockey. And
shout out national champs. Yeah. Oh, just kidding. Oh, my bad. I thought they were. Go ahead. Last year.
So just fresh in my mind, like the movie Miracle is about the 1980s USA Olympic hockey team. Is a group of just, college kids going up against I think they were like 15 years, the USSR Russian hockey team. Mm. And this group of, 20 kids came together as a team, average talent. And you watch these David and Goliath stories all over the place mm-hmm. of the underdogs and coming together as a team, as a culture, and unifying and aligning and working together. I think that is, to answer your question up front, that is probably one of the biggest principles, one of the biggest learning points that I have solidified in my life and have been actually like trying to poke it and test it, and it keeps standing true. And then on that second point, you asked for two of them. I think the second one this one is on an individual level is don't quit. Like if you know that's what you're supposed to be doing, whatever it is that you're supposed to be doing, if you know that's what you're supposed to be doing, what you're called for, it's going to be hard. Things are going to get hard along the way, and don't quit. So I think those are kind of shotgun me with that one, but those are the first two that come to my mind is, the we over me mindset and just keep going. Don't quit. Mm-hmm.
It's so interesting. The individuals that I've had on, the second one, don't quit, has been a common through thread, mm-hmm. whether it be business and fitness and like whatever. It's been a common through thread with that. But I want to go back to the we over me mentality. Because I get also very fascinated about how do you build that team and that culture, because it can seem like, oh yeah, it's great having a team of average performers, but how do you really bring that out of those average performers to perform at that level?
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you first in the frame of what are some characteristics from building that team that has been non-negotiables, and then I'll flip it on the other end.
If I can put a pin in that, because I have some framework I want to lay before getting into that, is if you were to ask me at this point a year ago, this same question, and you 14 years in the SEAL teams, asked me to answer the same question, I don't know that I would have had the clarity to actually answer these questions and I'm not, by no means am I saying these are articulate, great answers, but I feel like I have a lot more clarity around it now than I did a year ago. I could have said, yeah, Kelsey, that person over there is exhibiting exceptional behavior. They're exhibiting elite behavior. And when I say the word elite, I'm best version of ourselves. Or that team over there, that team is exhibiting elite behavior. They are very aligned and unified and working towards a common principle. But for me to give you the X's and the O's, to give you the systems on how to do that, I don't know that I could have done it that well.
Even with being in the SEALs for 14 years.
To some degree, I think I could have.
Yeah.
But not as well as a friend of mine, also a SEAL. We served probably about 10 years of our SEAL team time together. His name's Tony DeCenzo. You met him the other day at the coffee shop.
Yes. Oh, I didn't know you served with him.
Yes. Yep. So we actually served together for a
on
period.
the same team?
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's crazy.
No, yeah. In the reserves, we were on the same team, not
Okay.
the same active duty team. But so he actually was with Focus 3 prior to me. He's the one that brought me on board to Focus 3. And I kind of hit a little bit of a bumpy road just trying to find my way after leaving the SEAL teams. And I was talking with Tony, and he said, hey, why don't I come show you a workshop that I'm putting on? And it was a Focus 3 workshop. It was the R Factor. It's the name of the workshop. And I sat in and I watched it, and it was just like all of these things made sense to me now. And what it kind of set up was a framework, a systematic framework for how success happens. And so it was like, now I feel like I could just show someone this. And it was that moment when I was able to look back and like, yeah, I did all of those things. I didn't know what it was called when I was doing these things, but these are the things that I did to, in this area of my life, be successful. And when I say the word successful, I think I define it as, what was the thing that I wanted to accomplish? And then did I accomplish that thing I was going to accomplish? Because I think oftentimes we can say the word successful and it just be like you comparing yourself to somebody else. And that's not
and what's the definition of success?
I think if you were to ask 100 different people what success is to them, you'd get 100 different answers. So it's like for myself, what success was for me, I now had a framework to accomplish that.
This is interesting because this is also another thread, is a lot of people disqualify themselves of, well, I'm not Andy, so I can't be successful in XYZ, or I can't be as successful in XYZ, whatever, like you said, what success is. But what I love that you brought up is a systematic framework. And I like to think of it, I think of it from business. If I have a framework that I can work off of, that means, oh, that thing's available to me just like it is Joe Schmo over there, versus this quality that's either given or not given.
Yeah.
If you, by your creator, whatever your belief system is, well, man, I wasn't born with that thing, so I guess it's not available to me. And I love that you pulled in systematic framework, because you have to work the framework. And I don't want to give all of your Focus 3 material away, because I do want to get into it later. But if you could delineate a few of those framework principles, like, hey, these are the 2 or 3 things, Kels, in this framework that has led to either team success or individual success that people could apply or realize, oh, that is a part of it. What would those be?
I think the first one that comes to mind using that system or that framework is something that we call the performance pathway. And what the performance pathway is and what it says is that leaders create a culture that drives the behavior that produces results. You think of that framework as just simply a neutral statement. It doesn't have a positive value or a negative value. If most people, what they do, we can talk about if you have a workout program and say your result is, I want whatever your result is in the gym. If we're talking about business, whatever your result is in business that you're looking for, the end result, the goal, what is the thing that I'm looking for? Leaders create the culture that drives the behavior that produces results. And a lot of people get stuck on just that results piece. So if, let's say you're going to create a workout program for me.
You better get ready.
Stand by. Man, it's going to hurt. But you were to create a workout program for me. To your point, one, I got to work that workout program.
Yeah.
If I don't work it, then I'm no shot in me getting a result out of that. But then two is what does that map look like? So for this approach, and I think this kind of touches on a question that you asked a little earlier on, but leaders create the culture that drives that behavior that produces results. So if I want better results, and I work that backwards. If I'm not happy with the results that I'm getting, what's the thing that I need to change? I need to adjust my behavior. A synonym for behavior is performance. Behavior is the way other people experience me. It can be measured by what we call human currency: attitude, actions, and words. So if I want better results, I need better behavior. Behavior is the one thing that impacts everything. And then you keep working that backwards. If I want better behavior, what do I need to adjust? I need to drive a stronger culture. I think culture is one of those words that can, in our society, can be one of those hot button words, or it's just in one ear, out another. It's said so many times. Performance environment is another word. Team. Team is a word that we could use there as well. I need a stronger team. I need a stronger performance environment to drive that behavior. There's an interesting parallel that goes on between culture and behavior. It's true that culture drives behavior, but additionally, it's also true that behavior reinforces our culture.
Yeah, that's good.
And then the catalyst for all of it is leadership. And I think leadership, again, one of those hot button words, it gets thrown around a lot, is leadership is not a position or a title based on authority. Leadership is simply influence earned through trust and results. There is a performance component to strong leadership. So if someone's listening to this and then they're maybe mid-level management, or they're not in that quote unquote, as business would call us, in that top tier leadership position, that leadership is not a title. It is simply influence earned through trust and results. And I say that word simply because simple does not equate to easy.
You're not wrong about that. Yeah.
So I to answer your question, I think that would be a perspective that I feel like I could offer. Is when I started looking at things through that lens, it became a system of like, okay, I'm not getting the result that I want right now. Well, I look at this: leaders create a culture that drives behavior that produces the results. If I want to adjust the results, work it backwards. What do I need to adjust back here?
Yeah. I could clip probably 10 things of what you just said. Like that was really good. And back when I was in college, I was listening to a podcast and my perspective shifted about leadership because I always viewed leadership with regards to also other people, meaning my influence to other people, my influence to the team that I'm a part of, or the class that I'm a part of, or whatever that be. But what changed for me, and this is the way that they used my terminology, but it provides the same principle, is being the quote-unquote CEO of your life. That's leadership is not just who you are to others, but also leadership is how you are to yourself. And what I want also people to gather, because this is so good, is when people are listening to this, it's not just in your workplace. It's not just how you view whether it's a team or a company that you're a part of. This could be in your household. This could be in your relationship. And I just don't want to bypass that because I know people can listen to this and be like, well, I work for a place, but this isn't really pertaining. Be like, no. This is exactly for you because at least how I view it, your culture within yourself, the culture within your household, with your relationship, and that is just as much, sometimes if not more important than even where you go and work in your day-to-day.
Kelsey, you said something that's so deep and so good there. is I heard you say it this way: is if it's not happening in me, it's not happening through me. If the way I am anywhere is the way I am everywhere.
So good.
The way I am in private when no one's watching is the way I'm going to be. I might be able to put on a mask for a little while. People can feel it though. If I'm not genuinely, authentically being myself, people can feel it. So it's that inner work that's so important. And we go back to that when we're looking at the performance pathway. Leaders create the culture that drives the behavior. Hone in on the behavior. Behavior is the one thing that impacts. If that's a true statement, and if behavior is the one thing that impacts everything, performance. I read this really interesting fact the other day. I did not do this study myself. It's all over. You can Google this or whatever. But I looked up how many times a day do we make choices.
Ooh.
And when I say the word choices, like think about it when you wake up in the morning. Do I choose to hit the snooze button or not hit the snooze button? What's my morning routine? What socks am I wearing? Am I eating breakfast at the house? Am I eating it on my commute into work? What does that look like? Do I have a commute into work? Like so many choices throughout the day that we have. The study said 35,000 choices. And if you're anything like me, and hopefully you're not, I can't even count to 35,000.
Me either.
So what that equates to is if I'm awake I'll be awake for about 16 hours today. That's about 57,000 seconds. Every 1.5 seconds, I'm making a choice. There is nothing else that I do in my life on a conscious level more than make choices. Choices are a reflection. How I make those choices, that is a reflection of my behavior. So how do I make those choices? And there's really, you can boil this down to two ways. I mean, if we're talking about simplifying life right here, when I heard these, and again, going back to that workshop that Tony brought me to, that Focus 3R Factor workshop that Tony brought me to, is this slide popped up, and I'd heard the word before. I'd heard this word that I'm going to say here in a second before, but it didn't quite hit me the way it did on this day. Is there was a slide that said discipline, and then there was a line, and then default. And Tony's up there at the front of the room, and he's going through his spiel, and all I'm seeing is discipline over default. Those 35,000 choices, I make two choices, either a discipline choice or a default choice. And when I saw that, I'm like, man, that is so true. It's so true. And I think when you hear the word discipline, it's easy to say like punishment.
Like negative connotation.
It's a negative connotation. Yeah. It's actually a Latin word that means student. It's learned behavior. It's intentional. It's purposeful. It's skillful behavior. And default, the only thing that is required of me to operate in default behavior is not be intentional. And when we think about it, it's like, it is challenging to be disciplined. And there's no perfect person out there. No one's ever been disciplined 100% of the time, all the time. So I'm, not trying to beat anybody up. And just because I operate in default doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. But there's always a better version of me available out there. There's always another level. There's always a better me available. And how many times a day of those 35,000 choices that I'm making, am I choosing that disciplined behavior? Am I choosing that disciplined choice? That's
so good. It reminds me almost of this might not make sense to you, but I'll make it make sense. It's almost like a bank account. Okay. So discipline is one bank account, or let's say Andy 4.0 is one bank account, and Andy 2.0 is another bank account.
Right.
And each
I already like
choice,
Andy 4.0 better.
Amen. Each choice that I'm making, I'm either putting money in my 4.0 bank account or putting money in my 2.0 bank account. Yeah. And then at the end of the day, I go and see who has more money in it. And then that's who I become, right? And I'm a very visual person, and I love the way that you simplify, which is why I was telling you beforehand, I just think your content and what you guys talk about and teach at Focus 3 is bar none, because it's such complex topics boiled down to such a simple way to be actionable about it. And make change, not just talk about change. And you said something in there about discipline, that is a learned behavior. And the amount of times, Andy, I hear, I just don't have as much discipline as you, Kelsey. And I'm like, y'all should see my snooze button sometimes. But as it's a learned behavior, once again, it's something that is learned. It's not just given or not given. But what would you say, Andy, when somebody comes to you and said, man, I know I need more discipline in my life. How do I get more discipline? Or how do I become that disciplined person? What would you share with them?
That's a tough one because that's an inner work. You have to do the inner work.
Yeah.
For myself, I've always just had this desire, and I can't explain it, to just want to be a better version of me. It's not like I am very competitive, don't get me wrong, but I am so much more competitive against myself than I am against anyone else. Yeah. I have if there's too many days stacked up on top of each other where I know I'm just not giving it what I know I could be giving it, then I start getting itchy. But Kelsey, your question is such a good one. I want to paint another picture because I got asked this exact same question by one of the girls at the OSU on the OSU hockey team. Okay. So if I can paint the picture really quick. Go for it.
That's perfect.
I'll light up this question for you here in a second. A couple weeks ago, I flew out to Minnesota with the OSU women's hockey team. They wanted to bring Focus 3 along to help with their mindset coaching, essentially. We've had a relationship with them for going on 10 years. Focus 3 has been working with the OSU women's hockey team for almost 10 years now.
Well, it's an attribute to how well they are doing and have done over the past couple of years. So.
Yeah, but Nadine is the coach there, and here's the thing: she's done the work. She is one of the most coachable people I've met. There's a big word right there. If we want to put a pin in something and come back to is that word coachability. But going back to this is, so I flew out there and I had a couple of these, we just call them mindset sessions, getting our mind right for the game. They had their semifinal game and then the championship game out there in Minnesota. And we're sitting down talking, and the word that we were leaning into was complacency, which is a form of default behavior. And it comes back to when I was in Afghanistan for my second deployment. We landed, and the first day in Afghanistan, my chief, which is our boss out there, brings all 16 of us in a room together and says, all right, fellas, this is his words, not mine. We are one of the most elite fighting forces on the entire planet. And there's something out here that's going to get you killed faster than anything else. Faster than any enemy bullet, any ambush, any IED. And that is complacency. Complacency will get you killed faster than anything else out here. And I'm like, that's huge. Because you get so many wins stacked up. You get so used to winning, you think you're untouchable. And a lot of our training that we do is about training to failure, training to the breaking point, training to, oh crap, we can't do this anymore. And it going down to like, it's not a me thing, it's a we thing. Yeah. So going back to OSU hockey is that word complacency. When we're operating when we have this much talent on the ice at the same time, you can win a game on talent alone. If the other team isn't as talented as you, if the other team is a better team than you without as much talent, that's where that changes. But if you got not a lot of talent and the team is not teaming that well, your team can win on talent alone. But when we're operating at this level, at a championship level, complacency is going to be the thing that causes you to lose. And it's the thing that which team makes less mistakes. Which team is more disciplined throughout the entirety of the game as a team, unified and aligned together throughout the entirety of the game. And so coming back to your question here, I'm talking to the girls about this, and one of the girls sitting up front, she asks, well, Andy, when you get complacent, how do you get out of that? How do you bounce out of it? And it kind of caught me off guard. I'm like, that's a really good question. And the first thing I said was, well, in the SEAL teams, the stakes are really high. I don't have a choice. I do have a choice, but if I choose to not bounce out of being in a complacent state, people die. People don't come home. Here on the ice, if you choose not to bounce out of a complacent state, you lose the game. That sucks, but you're going home. So we had a conversation around the mindset cycle, and that's another thing that we get into in some of our content is the mindset cycle and how to leverage this mindset cycle and our self-talk to create energy that produces the required action. If you think of, I've watched a couple documentaries on, like Michael Jordan, and he would tell himself stories just to motivate him to certain action to win the game. So what are the things that I need to do to move me into action? So no, I'm not getting shot at out here on the ice, but can I make it that real? Can I put my back up against a wall in my mind to where I don't have any back doors and the only way off this ice is to win? Can I make it that real in my mind? So for me to go back, how do you stay that disciplined is I try to remove back doors. And one of the ways that I do that is having a really strong why. Why do I do the thing that I do? And my why isn't always going to match your why or somebody else's why, but I think when we're talking about like having some values and those driving forces and those things that lead us and guide us, and my values don't need to be your values or anyone else's values, but are they real to me? And are they so real that when the bullets are flying, metaphorically or physically, that I'm not going to waver? That it goes from being a concept, maybe on a piece of paper or a thought in my head, and I do the inner work to make it true in my heart. I make it a value on my heart, because if it's a concept in my head, when things get a little stressful, I can just say, I'll do that tomorrow. Or when I said I was going to get up at 5 o'clock this morning and the alarm goes off, and man, it's cold out there, I'll start my gym routine tomorrow. Like, I don't have back doors. Dude, what story do I have to tell myself to, Andy, are you saying you make stuff up in your, sometimes I do.
We do.
So, sometimes I'm going on a run and there's so many, I'm chasing something, or people are looking at me like, what's that crazy guy's problem? Like, I'm winning. That's what's going on.
So good.
So like one of the things is I don't give myself back doors, or I try to remove those, and that's an inner work. Someone's not going to give that to you. And I could go off on a tangent on this one.
Oh, you can. I will let you have the pedestal.
I'm not going to give you your back. I'm not going to give you the thing. You have to do this. You have to identify this for yourself. And I think a lot of society is waiting for someone to give them the answer, for someone to say, here it is. Go do this thing. And if we're waiting on that, we are essentially handcuffing ourselves and waiting for someone else to come up to us with the keys and say, okay, now you can go. I'm not waiting on someone. Let's go. So I think as I'm going through that and talking about the OSU women's hockey, that was such a great question that she asked, and your question reminded me of it. And the other thing that I'll do too is I'll do these proactive pauses. And an example, we've brought up the snooze button now a couple times. Such an easy one, but let's do that. All right, I'm going to set an alarm tomorrow morning, and I am going to do a workout in the morning. And then I know the past 3 days that I've done this, I've hit the snooze button, and I said I'll do it tomorrow. So I hit that. I set my alarm that night, and I pause for a second. I know what is going to happen. Like, be your own enemy for a minute. Be who you are tomorrow morning, right now in this moment of clarity, and say, all right, what is the thing that I'm going to do? I know I'm going to do tomorrow. So go put my phone with the alarm on the other side of the room, so I have to go up and get it. Or like just take these pauses, know these landmines that are going to happen, and be strategic about it. It's like, it's not just going to get handed to you. Like, have a plan, no back doors, and be strategic about it. And the strategic part for, something like that is, and there's other apps and stuff out, like, no excuses. Come on.
Yeah. Oh, you just answered that way better than I was ever expecting, to be honest with you.
What happened? I blacked out.
I want to go do a really hard workout right now. I'll tell you that much. No, but I'm so glad you brought the complacency aspect of it. And I appreciate you bringing that story in because, one, it hits home with me, but many others. And you talked about your time overseas, how the stakes were really high. If you don't do the thing, God forbid, but you might, or people that you're serving with might not come home. Mm-hmm. That's a non-negotiable. Like, I have to do the thing. It's not I want to. I'm not choosing the option, right? And I don't know how to communicate this, so this might not come out the most clear. But, like, if I don't finish my power list today, or if I hit the snooze button, thank God, hopefully, that it's not going to be the same stake. But I also think that is the one thing that holds people back because the stakes aren't as high as that.
Mm-hmm. I think
does that make sense?
I think I see where you're going.
And so it's like we need to stack those, and that's where you talked about making up stories in your head. But I think that's where people go wrong the most. Is the stakes aren't high, but make them for yourself to be that high, because you'll bring yourself back or self-sabotage it just because it's not a need, it's a want. Yeah. But how do we make that want a need so you have no other back door to get out of? Yeah. Because if we do that, you better watch out for what's ahead. Yeah. Because you're just keeping quitting on the table. Yeah. And once you take that off the table, or your back door, once you close that back door, there's no other option but to succeed. And I think this pulls into one of the cheesy YouTube videos that I used to look up, is if you want to breathe as bad as you want to succeed, then you'll succeed. But that is it's the truth, though, to the extent of it.
And I think when you're saying that, the word procrastination comes to my mind. Is when I'm on deployment, that's a 6-month finite period of time to get my job done. When we're playing the game of sports, it's, an hour, 2 hours, a finite amount of time that at the end of that period of time, the score's on the board that says whether you win or lose. There, believe it or not, I'm not a big poem reader. I know that might catch you off guard.
I don't know. You might strike me as a poem guy.
But our CEO, Heather Verity, when she took over Focus 3, we were on an offsite trip together, brought the whole team in, and it was like her opening talk to us, basically, welcome to the team. And she talked about this poem called The Dash.
Ooh.
And
I already know where you're going with this.
To kind of just a synopsis of what it is we all have a start date. It's the day we were born, and we all have an end date. No one's going to live forever on this earth. We all have an end date on this earth, and our scoreboard is that dash. That what the legacy of our life that we leave behind here on earth, and that carries on with us, is that dash. And almost keeping in perspective, how do I keep something like that in front of me? Because it can be so easy to get in that daily mundane when I don't have a game clock up there telling me, hey, you got this much time left. You got this much time left. It can be so easy to just look at that task in front of me and say, I'll do that tomorrow. It's not a big deal if I don't do it today, I'll do it tomorrow. And I'm not saying that, we always have to put this high, crazy level of pressure on ourselves to the point where we can't enjoy anything and we're not relatable by any means. But is how much can I keep? Because you talk to older people all the time. They're like, it went by so fast. Yeah. It just went by so fast. And we have the choice. We can choose to procrastinate it and put it on until tomorrow. Or if I put it on my to-do list today, I'm going to make sure it gets done. So that way I can be on to the next thing tomorrow. So, and I think when we're talking about no back doors, things like that, is like, how much of that can I put in front of me? Can I remind myself of like, hey, you're not going to be here forever, dude. And I want to make, when I was in the military, I rose my hand and swore an oath to protect and defend this nation from all enemies, foreign and domestic, and, had the opportunity to work alongside some of the most awesome teammates on the planet, and no longer on that team anymore. But just because I'm not in the military doesn't mean I put my hand down on that oath. I took that as something serious for my life, and I want to make an impact, and I want to help preserve, and I want to leave this place better than I found it. So just having those whys, removing those back doors, I think is really big.
Well, I will tell you firsthand, you are leaving other lives impacted tremendously more than you could imagine.
I appreciate that.
And I say that from my experience with you leading the Go Ruck event that I was a part of, and then seeing you share your not experiences in the military, but you shared that one poem. I think it was a poem. Oh, and it
just reading poems all over the place over here.
It impacted me deeply, and you're using the skill sets that I think God's putting you in position, and He's used everything that you have accumulated up until this point, and like you're just getting started in the best way possible. So I'm excited, and selfishly I'm excited to have you a part of this early on too, because you're going to explode with it. But I want to flip this frame, then we're going to go a little bit more into focus 3 stuff too, where some individuals learn also, yes, what to do, but some people can learn. There's a specific learning terminology that I can't remember the name of this, but they learn by what not to do. Yeah. So if I were to say the frame, okay, yes, what do good leaders do? We covered a lot of that. Well, let's flip it to say, what do bad leaders do? Yeah. And once again, people listening to this, take leadership as your own self, like me leading my own life, but then also relationship, home, all that. So give me some qualities of bad leaders.
So if we were to take that phrase where leadership is simply influence earned through trust and results, let's just 180 that. What are the things that I do that break trust with people? And if I'm not building trust with people, any result that I am getting, if I'm getting results, is unsustainable. I'm not going to be able to sustain those results. So let's focus on trust first. Trust is a 3-legged stool. And first part of it is character. What is my character? And we go back to what we talked about at the beginning there was, what am I doing behind closed doors? If it's not happening in me, it's not happening through me. So am I the person that I want to follow? And I think it starts there on a character level. And then it becomes a competence trust. Do I know my job technically? Whatever that is, whatever it is that you're pursuing. Have you done the work to build that skill set, and that you have become technically skilled in what it is that you're doing? And then the third one is connection. How well can you connect with people? And I think if you're missing any one of those 3 pillars of building trust, there's no such thing as 2/3 trust.
That's true.
It's you either have it or you don't. Or and going back to your money example, is you're making deposits into trust accounts.
Oh, that's good.
As a leader,
yeah.
On it, let's say we're working on a team together. I'm making deposits into your trust account on a daily basis, and the way that I'm doing that is, 1, through my character. When you're observing me, when you just see me living life and doing things, you're watching, and things are either adding up or they're not adding up to you. And if they're not adding up to you, you're gonna be a little guarded. You're gonna be a little off-putting. I might ask you to do something on my team, and you might say, okay, yeah, that's fine, because you're supposed to, because you're an employee and that's what you're supposed to do. But there's a little bit of a wall up there. And then you're also going to be watching me like, does he know, is he competent in what he's doing? Does he know his job? Does he know what the thing that he's asking me to do? Can he do it? And then, am I taking the time to build a connection with you? And it's different for other people. The way I build a connection with you might not be the way I build a connection. And I'm talking about this here. I'm giving examples of in the workplace or in business. Am I doing this with my wife?
That's good. Yeah, that's good.
Am I doing this with my kids? Am I doing this at home?
Are you doing this with yourself?
Am I doing this with myself?
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Because I know me better than most people.
Mm-hmm.
Am the character that I'm portraying, is that actually who I know that I am?
Mm-hmm.
So to answer your question is, am I building trust? And then I can't even look at getting sustainable results if I don't have that foundation of trust first.
Yeah.
And we talked about leadership being influence. Influence is not forcing people to do things. It's people want to do things for you because you've built trust and you got fruit on the tree. They can look at you and say, okay, things make sense. I want to go that direction with that person.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing you say is take a look in the mirror first and foremost of how am I showing up?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be very open and honest. I mean, there's been certain seasons or months, years in my life where I'm like, yeah, like I am doing the things I say I'm doing. I am showing up. I'm not perfect. Oh my gosh, I'm not perfect, but I am living what I'm preaching. And that alignment feels incredible to me. But on the flip end, there's also been seasons, months, weeks that I felt unsettled. I felt like, man, something feels off. And a lot of times it takes courage to take a look in the mirror and say, Kelsey, you're not showing up to the extent that not only you need for you, but the people around you need for you. And I want to share with the people listening too is it takes courage to do that, but to be honest with yourself and to not back away from that woman in the mirror, man in the mirror can be the biggest stepping stone to not only building that relationship with yourself, but becoming that leader in your relationship, in your business. And I've had to do both. Look in the mirror and be proud, and look in the mirror and say, oh, there's some areas that you need to clean up. And I think that's important.
You said a word there that might just crack open the floodgates here, and that's courage.
I have that on my list. So
that is such a good word. So one, let's set the stage with this. If you're not uncomfortable, if you're not failing a little bit, and that is not a bad word. Failure, you can't succeed if you don't fail. So if you're not a little uncomfortable, you're not failing a little bit, you're probably not at that point that we call the edge, where it's reached the end of my abilities, and best version of myself lives on the other side of that edge. Success is going to happen at the rate of my failures. So, and I don't mean just go out and fail for the sake of failing. Like, have a direction, have a plan, and the first time you do it, you're probably going to fail. Give yourself a little bit of grace for that.
Yeah.
So I think one is if I'm looking at myself in the mirror and it is a little hard, pat yourself on the back that you're still here, that you're still going, that you haven't quit. We talked about that up front. Is on an individual level, I've gotten back up. I'm looking myself in the face again, and all right, we're ready. Let's go round 2. Let's go round 3. Let's keep this going. And then 2 is, I think as a winner, like most people listening to this podcast are going to be, I would argue that everyone listening to this podcast is a winner. I think it can be so easy for us to look at what we're not yet and not look at where we've come from. It can be so easy to say, oh, I'm not this yet. I'm not there yet. As opposed to reflect and have a little bit of gratitude of where you were 6 months ago, where you were a year ago, where things were 2 years ago, 5 years ago. I mean, it's not, I don't think it's unhealthy to look back on those areas and the things that we've overcome and the things that we've made it through that brought us to where we are now. I think that's a strong reflective pause to be able to look back and do that. And then there's some learning points there too. We can take some of the things that we learned back here and apply it up here. And then I want to go back to your word courage as well. Is things are going to be scary sometimes. Navy SEALs saying things are going to be scary.
Who would have thought?
No, seriously, things are going to be scary. You got to have courage. It's another one of those Latin words. It means strength of heart.
Courage does?
Courage means strength of heart.
I wonder if that's why I like that word so much.
It's got to be.
Because that really hits home.
Can I ask you a question?
Flip it.
How is it that we gain strength?
Ooh, how is it that we gain?
Let's just talk about a gym metaphor here.
I mean, you have to break the muscle down to build it back up.
You got to work it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't just have courage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't just have strength of heart. I have to work it.
Mm-hmm.
And it starts with, I mean, we're talking about building strength of heart. It starts with our kids. Show them that the monsters under the bed and the monsters in the closet aren't real. Yeah. Or those little things that we're maybe a little nervous to do. We're at that edge and it's a little scary. We've exhausted the level of our abilities and our current skills and talent. We got to build more skill. Mm-hmm. And it's going to take a little bit of courage. It's going to take some strength of heart. Mm-hmm. The fear's not going to go away. It's there. Mm-hmm. The way you defeat it is with courage. Mm-hmm. And the way you get a stronger strength of heart, courage, mm-hmm. is you exercise it. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, I've picked 2 horrible careers in my life in the sense of doing things that I'm not excited about doing. One of them entails jumping out of perfectly good airplanes. Oh, God. And the other one is public speaking.
Requires courage.
I didn't want to do either of those things, but here I am.
Oh my gosh.
So it's just doing the things that you know you need to do, but you don't want to do because it is uncomfortable. The other thing that it takes courage is this fear, again, of what other people are going to think. Mm-hmm. It's going to take a little bit of courage to step out from that, mm-hmm. of what other people are going to think. And I might fall on my face and look like an idiot sometimes. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to keep trying and I'm going to get better and I'm going to grow and develop and get stronger.
I don't think I've ever had a podcast where I want to hit the best gym session after, but now it's the podcast that I do. I'm so glad that you brought that up because I talk about the courage muscle a lot because people can hit with muscles, right? If I don't strengthen my bicep, it atrophies. It gets weaker. Yep. But if I strengthen it, mm-hmm. it gets stronger. And once again, it circles back to the beginning is you build it. It's not just given. And I want to be respectful of your time. I could ask 20 more questions.
I have one more here if we're at this point.
Well, okay. I want to ask one and then
go. Yes.
You have a question or a topic?
I got a thought. You're talking about atrophy.
Okay. You bring in that, and then I want one more question.
Okay. Well, you talked about the word atrophy, and at the beginning we talked about leaders create a culture that drives behavior that produces results. Is when we're talking about culture, is that team atmosphere, mm-hmm. the environment, mm-hmm. that is an energy sucker. It pulls, if you think about it like a gas tank that requires gasoline, it is constantly pulling gasoline out of the tank. Mm-hmm. And in order to have an intentional culture, there needs to be energy in there. Mm-hmm. So if leaders create that culture that drives behavior, as a leader, what is it that I as a leader need to provide for the team or the culture? Mm-hmm. And I think it's these 2 things. I need to bring energy mm-hmm. for that culture, because if the culture is sucking gas, it's sucking energy. I need to take energy and put it in that. So I need to be refilling that culture tank mm-hmm. as a leader with my energy. Mm-hmm. And then second, I need to be a standard bearer. Ooh. What are the standards of my culture? Mm-hmm. And I need to uphold those standards mm-hmm. within my culture. Mm-hmm. So sorry, a little tangent. You were talking about the breaking down of a muscle. Culture works in a similar fashion.
It's almost like God created all these things to build off one another. That is very similar to the concepts. And we were talking beforehand of all these leadership principles are just wrapped in different wrapping paper. Mm-hmm. You know, I think people are looking for that, even me sometimes, that next thing, or, once you get this, then the floodgates open and all the success happens or all the progress comes. It's like, no, it's the same principles. Uh-huh. It's the same stuff. It's not going to be the prettiest or sexiest thing on Instagram, but it's what works. Mm-hmm. And when we can stop ourselves from constantly looking for that next thing and do the thing that we know that we need to do mm-hmm. and stop avoiding the work, that's where progress comes with it. Yeah. So I want to touch on this. Okay. I was in a sauna this morning with some of just amazing people. And one played in the NFL, went that route. One is a really high performer in business. And they were talking about operating in chaos. And one lesson that I've learned from a business standpoint is I thought all these businesses that you see, it is rainbows and sunshine behind the scenes. It's not chaotic. It's not undone processes. It operates like a machine.
They're
baby.
lying.
It is a lie. All these businesses and all these people, like everybody is just trying to figure it out. And we're throwing stuff at the wall, seeing what works. We're failing forward. Some things are amazing. Some things are not going really well. And once I open that veil from my eyes of like, oh, it's not just you, Kels. Like things aren't completely undone behind the scenes. But when you're trying to build something, just like a muscle, it's going to be strained. It's going to be, really pushing to some extent.
Yeah.
And so operating in chaos, and the reason I shared this story is because they said that the people that they want to have on their team, they need to know how to operate in chaos. And I thought, what a better person to be interviewing today than somebody that I imagine operated in a lot of chaos and still a different chaos, but to extent today. So give me your perspective on operating in chaos.
It's really funny you bring this up during my my gym session this morning. This exact thought came to my mind.
Oh, that's crazy. Okay.
Yeah, it's like it was supposed to be talked about or something. Yeah. But in the SEAL teams, we don't get called in because someone's having a great day. We don't get the call like, hey, we need you guys to come in. Everyone's having a great day. It's rainbows and butterflies over here. Come on over. We get called into people's worst days. And everyone wants to mess us up bad. So we trained like it. We train in chaos. We would create. We had an entire portion within the SEAL teams, and their whole job is to think of crazy ways to mess us up in training. In the sense of it, when I say mess up, if you were to think of if what describes, let's do this. How do we define an elite team?
You asking me?
It's a rhetorical question. I kind of know where this is going. I'm the one that served it up, but
it's like put me on the spot now, Andy. Okay.
But it's an elite team, or another way that we can put it is the team's ability to perform the best version that culture, that team can perform. And the answer to that is, how well can a team stay aligned during the most chaotic situations? So you can technically measure it by the level of chaos that's occurring around them. What is their level of alignment in the midst of that chaos? When we think of sports teams, it's this two teams going together, creating chaos for each other. And the team that breaks down alignment the most is the one that loses. The team that remains aligned the strongest is the one that wins. And when we're talking about on the battlefield, it's easy to measure. It's the team that comes back. But in business, I think it's so easy to your point, put on this front of everything's great. Now, it might not be necessarily bullets, but market shifts.
Yeah.
The world around us is almost designed to create chaos.
Yeah, I mean, literally though. I mean, everything is shifting. If you look at the science of it, everything's shifting to chaos and disorganization.
Yeah, our default nature individually is to drift into default. It's not to drift into discipline behavior. As a culture, our default tendency as a culture, as a team, if no energy, the leader brings two things, energy and standards. If we don't bring that energy into the culture, the default nature of it is atrophy. It's to break apart. So what are the things I think there's other things, but I think there's one, it's selflessness. We come back to the we over me mindset. Is I look after you more than I look after me. And if I'm on a team of 20 people and everyone has that mindset, if I'm only looking out for me all the time, I got one person looking out for me. If everyone is looking out for you, I got 19 other people looking out for me. And we're constantly working together. We're constantly flowing and aligned in the same direction. And I think one of the biggest words one of the biggest things that can be attributed to showing a we over me mindset is communication. Is how strong, and communication is not only just words coming out of my mouth.
As we found out very quickly when we did the Go Ruck event or the rucking event.
Yeah, we do it. We did an exercise there where it's a no verbiage movement. It's where for this period of time, as we're carrying this weight, we're not allowed to say anything. So it's not just words. It's the tone, body language, how well we interact, with each other. But I think communication has to be massively high. Collaboration is a function of communication. But chaos is going to happen. What are the things that, and we practice it together. We think about it. We look ahead. We know much of our life is on repeat. If I were to ask you, what does your week next week look like? Probably within an 80% solution, you could predict. It doesn't mean you're a fortune teller or anything like that, but just things happen on such a repeat occurrence that you kind of know what it's going to look like. So do we collaborate together as a team and prepare for those things? In a family, we know what next week is going to look like. As spouses with our kiddos, do we have practice and stuff? Who's grabbing groceries? And a lot of times we just don't do this stuff. Right. And then we get frustrated when the things that we knew were going to happen, and we don't have a plan for it. We didn't take the time to slow down and create a plan. And here's that word again, communicate. So it sounds funny when we're talking about it on a family level, but arguably that's the most important place to use it.
Right. Oh, wow. I'm going to delineate. Oh, you had multiple. I'm going to delineate two things out of there that I was thinking through also as you were talking with the concept of chaos is not waiting for the chaos to settle first to take action or to be in alignment. I loved what you talk about with the team because it's so true. Two teams trying to stay in alignment, which one allows that chaos to impact them more? I've never heard that before through the thousands of hours I've been listening to podcasts. That's great. But not waiting for the chaos to settle. Many people wait for, well, once this settles, then I will. And I'm not saying add 20 things onto your list and start everything tomorrow, but I think that's important. And then also number 2 is what system do you have to fall back when chaos does arise? And one of the guys that I was talking to this morning, he's like, I will purposely add certain quote unquote chaos days, meaning I'm going to go train at 3 a.m. when my body's not high functioning, when it's not the greatest, because I need to show myself and my body that we're not just getting this session in when it's perfect time and I sleep beautifully. It's like, no, we're built to endure too. And yes, I'm about optimization, and it's beautiful that we have all this stuff to optimize, but you also have to remember at the end of the day, you're built to endure, and allowing yourself to endure is incredibly important to be resilient, which we could go into that forever. But I have to be respectful of your time. Is there anything else that you want to leave the audience with or that we didn't touch on that you want to pull in today?
I think it's important to remember that as good as any content might be that we hear and that we learn about, it means absolutely nothing. And this is the tagline that at Focus 3 we leave people with. It means we could have the best workshop on the face of the planet. We could have the best conversation. It doesn't have to be this podcast. You can go listen to another podcast right after this one. It hits you in such a way that you're like, wow, that's amazing. But it means absolutely nothing if you don't go do the work. But I appreciate you bringing me in today, Kelsey. This has been a blast, and I thank you very much. This has been fun.
This has been one of the best conversations I've had. And I was going to tell you after, I'll just tell you now on air too, you do an incredible job communicating the concepts very clearly, but I love what you do is you say, hey, these are the 2 things, or this is the framework or the principle. And I know for me at least, I can remember 2 things. I'm not going to remember 10 minutes of what you share, but I can remember the 2 things that you do. So I know you said the jumping out of airplanes in public speaking, you're like, I was not, like, that's not my jam. But I believe that God's placed you here because you do have gifts in it. And I know the gifts have been built too. It's not just, you woke up as a baby and you can beautifully publicly speak. So I know you've built them, but I also believe that you've been given gifts to share with other people. So I'm greatly appreciative for you. I'm grateful for the work that you're doing, for the work that you have done. And I'm just excited to continually get our audience and just community involved with you and what you're doing at Focus 3, because I know Focus 3 specifically has really impacted my life, and with Jennifer and Tim and everybody. And I'm excited. When I heard that you were Focus 3, I'm like, this is beautiful. I could not imagine a better environment. So I just appreciate you tremendously.
Oh, thank you. This is great. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And last part, whether it's somebody listening or maybe they own a company and they want to get involved with you specifically or the work with Focus 3, where would you send them to? And we'll put this in the show notes, but where would you send them to, or how would they contact you specifically?
My LinkedIn page is simply Andy Hills with an S, multiple of them, not just one. Or you can go to the Focus 3 website. It's focus3.com. And then I'm on there somewhere. Search around a little bit. We got Corey here, our marketing director, and he's giving me the thumbs up. He says that I'm on there somewhere.
Oh, so. I looked you up, so you are on there. I'll confirm that for you. That's amazing. We'll put that on there. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. I know that this was not only one of my favorite podcasts. I know the listeners are like, Kels, can you get him on again? So have to reserve time again for you. But thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, if whatever you took from this, the one or two things that he specifically talked about, I'm going to encourage you to message him, whether it be LinkedIn, whether it be, I blow his Instagram up with all the rucking stuff that we do, but message him, because when you get what other people get from your message, it just gives you that fire to keep on spreading it. So I just want to say thank you, and have an amazing rest of your week. Love y'all.